Hello and welcome to Strange Stories. It's great to have you here. We are all about sharing stories of near-death experiences from around the world in the hopes of bringing some light and inspiration to your day. Our daily videos offer a glimpse into what lies beyond this life, and we believe that they can help us all appreciate the gift of life a little bit more. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue to grow. And to our returning viewers, welcome back. We're thrilled to have you with us again. So go ahead, grab a cozy blanket, get comfy, and join us for today's incredible near-death experience story.
I was assaulted in 1996 and was critically injured. None of this is a memory of mine. I was on a gurney being held upside down and throwing up blood on a typical Friday afternoon. Shortly after being placed in the ambulance, I went unconscious. I experienced death at that point. I don't use the term near-death experience on purpose because I've done a lot of research on the subject. The most typical characteristics of NDEs are a feeling of the soul separating from the body, a tunnel of light, and seeing heaven, God, deceased loved ones, etc. Both physically and psychologically, these sensations are simple to explain. When the heart and lungs stop working, the combined effects of viva mortis and muscle relaxation lead to the soul departing the body. The pull of gravity causes blood, like any liquid, to naturally flow to the lowest place unless it is pumped against gravity by a pump, the heart. Blood flows downward after the heart stops. It's called viva mortis. NDE sufferers frequently receive medical attention while lying on their backs, which is why they survive to tell the tale. As a result, their back receives more blood, giving the impression that their body is going backwards. One exhales, feeling an inner power going forward as the lungs stop working and the diaphragm relaxes. The experience that the soul is departing the body is the result of the interplay between the body moving backward and an inner force flowing ahead. When the muscles loosen up, the eyes open and the pupils widen, we experience the tunnel of light phenomenon. A strong point of light is surrounded by a darkness or fogginess that gets thicker as the pupils continue to enlarge and the irises relax. One is aware of one's own death at this time. We only get knowledge from first-hand experience, hence the only way we can understand death beyond the concept of it is through personal experience, such as the deaths of loved ones and the religious notions about what happens after death. Therefore, we imagine our loved ones who've passed away in heaven, hell, or even God. I didn't go through any of these. I was alive 1 second, then I wasn't the next. I was no longer in my body, but I was neither floating above it nor passing through a tunnel of light to paradise, so I recognize this. There aren't even any thoughts or phrases in the real world that can even begin to convey what I did go through. My best effort will be to describe what I know about it and how it felt. I was in a location that doesn't exist. It was the center of everything, both existing outside of the known universe or our comprehension of it and embracing the whole cosmos. In this location, time did not exist. Every significant point in history, the present and the future, was laid out in front of me as a single overarching event, beginning with the universe's genesis and ending. Something has since been blocked from my memory in such a way that recalling it aches. I had a sensation without perception or consciousness without sensation, which is something that is completely unimaginable and incomprehensible. There was neither heat nor cold, light nor dark, movement nor absence of it. There was nothing except awareness throughout. Every concept and thought that anyone had ever had or would ever have was known to me. Despite the absence of sound, there appeared to be voices. How then could they be overheard conversations in a crowded restaurant if I could clearly hear and follow each talk simultaneously without being interrupted by anybody else? Then all of that vanished, leaving only one emotion, peace, which was my only feeling throughout the entire ordeal, a complete absence of all other feelings, sensations, and thoughts. Everything exists in opposition to its polar opposite. No light without darkness, and vice versa. Just as no warmth without cold, no pleasure without pain, and no love without hatred. We perceive the world in various degrees of opposites, which is how we experience it. We only enjoy the summer because we know winter is coming. This is the misfortune of man. We love because we're loved, and we hate because we're disliked. Because everything is only understood through contrast, we can never truly experience peace till all of these things have been eliminated, which can only happen when we die and lose all of our senses, experiences, and knowledge. This occurrence, since it wasn't an experience, lasted both the tiniest sliver of a second and the duration of the universe. In eternal serenity, I floated. Then I heard God's voice, which was at once as powerful as staying up late on a Saturday morning and waking up to the sound of birds chirping outside of your window. The soft scent of lilacs and roses carried on a gentle early summer breeze, and the warm sun shining on your naked body, and as ominous and terrifying as lightning striking the very foundation of the building you're standing in. Although it is not the right time for you to be here, you're free to do so. If you want to come back, I have a job for you. I didn't want to go, but you have to listen to the voice. I am aware that I have a choice, and I decided to prefer the suffering and sorrow of this world to the absence of everything but tranquility. I sometimes ponder that decision, but I believe I made it before it was presented to me. I returned because I came back knowing that I had a job to do. I only hope that when the time comes, I'll be ready. My mother was being told by the doctors that I would probably pass away in the coma I was in when I awoke on a gurney in the hospital. They had no idea how I was still alive. They forced me back down after I sat up because they believed I was having a seizure until I started speaking. I was bombarded with inquiries such as, "Do you know what day it is? And who's the president?" I was repeatedly asked to count to 10 in 4 different languages. The queries came to an end. My skull was broken, and I had the size and form of a huge pumpkin. I also suffered injured kidneys, spleen, liver, and 3 cracked ribs. I was internally bleeding, but the doctors weren't sure where. I assured them that even though I was going to sleep, I would leave the hospital in under 24 hours. I then consciously healed myself while closing my eyes. I could physically sense where and what was wrong with my body. I could move blood and nutrients away from bleeding areas and into areas that required them. I could command my flesh and bones to regrow. The technicians did another CT scan on me because the results were so odd. Given the severity of my wounds and how long my brain had been without oxygen while I was clinically dead, it was thought unthinkable that there wouldn't be any brain damage. Moreover, a hitherto unheard of high delta wave measurement that could only be explained by REM sleep was present. Even though I was aware and speaking the entire time, even that was a reach. At one point that evening, my doctor was seated in a chair in my room when I woke up. I advised him that if he needed to, he could attend to someone else. I knew I would be okay. "I know, but what's happening to you is incomprehensible," he added. "You ought to be gone. I cannot refuse to believe in a miracle. I really can't pass up the chance to see this, which God is giving me." I later learned that his daughter had also been injured in a car accident and had a similar set of symptoms. He'd been asking God questions, and he believed that what was happening to me right in front of his eyes was God's response. At 2:17 p.m., I was admitted to the hospital, and at 1:44 p.m. the next day, I was discharged. My recuperation had no explanation, they claimed, but they could not detain me any longer. For the next 6 months, I was required to visit my doctor every 2 weeks in order to monitor my potential long-term repercussions of my wounds. The doctor sat down in the examination room inside after the initial physical examination and the tests. I timidly inquired as to what was wrong, and he remained silent. Simply put, nothing. Nothing in my medical education or expertise can explain your recovery. He described to me how bones recover. There is a significant knot of bone where the bone was broken and the immune system goes berserk producing new bone. This gradually dissolves over time, although it takes months, and occasionally a shattered bone will permanently expand as a result. He said that after 2 weeks, he was unable to determine whether I'd even broken a bone, much less 3 broken ribs and 2 in my skull. All I can say is, do you believe in God? The situation made me nuts. I genuinely thought that. I had encountered things that cannot possibly be understood by humans. I heard the voice of God, which, believe me, is not something that humans are capable of hearing. I searched all around for the tranquility I had felt. I explored several religions and drug use. I began studying physics and biology in an effort to come up with a rational justification for what had occurred to me. I thought it was all some kind of elaborate hallucination. You see, I was up in a Pentecostal church that was really rigorous and fundamentalist. Because I didn't believe all I was told, such as the planet was only 6,000 years old and that Buddhists were bad, I was informed that my faith was weak when I started to ask questions. It was explained to me that men had one fewer rib than women did, since Adam's rib was utilized to produce heaving. And I was told this by a nurse of all things. The Bible contains a tale of how God caused the sun to remain still in the sky for an entire day. I was informed that there had been one less day than there should have been after all the days since the beginning of time had been computed. I had therefore adopted atheism rather than embracing lies as true in the fields of science, arithmetic, medicine, and history. Religion had shown to be false to me, and now all of my beliefs were in question. I finally came to terms with what had happened to me as a medical and psychological condition that simply lacked an adequate explanation. The notion persisted up until September 11, 2001. A friend of mine remarked about the sky's beauty about 6 in the morning. I said, "Yes, it's a pity so much death will come out of it," surprising both him and myself. Then I returned home and seen CNN's coverage of death falling from the sky. When a prophet or wise man in the Bible received a message from God, he never started working immediately. He spends 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. In other words, neither his fate nor the length of his absence are known. I may have completed my 40 days and nights. Perhaps the task I'm called to perform is to share my experience, the insights I've gained, and the conclusions it has led me to. Or perhaps not. In any case, I've come back from the woods with a message. We can find peace in this world if we choose to. Any religion that is now practiced cannot contain it, since they're all too disconnected from reality. No matter how devout we consider ourselves to be, we choose to reject the message that all religions convey. There is one sin that is the source of all sin, and there are only 3 virtues that are the foundation of all virtues. Every sin is pride, and pride is a sin. It is the cause of all human pain and illnesses. We make others subservient to our desires out of pride. Pride causes us to split humanity apart. We dominate, obliterate, and subjugate nature and people through pride. Pride drives us to murder one another, and we perish because of pride. The keys to knowing and promoting peace and patience, humility and compassion. All things come to pass through patience, according to Jesus. That we're all equal to all of God's efforts, no matter how modest, is the essence of humility. The peace-bringing light that shines through us and illuminates the world is compassion. Because God made each of us in the likeness of His, we're also creative beings. Murder, misery, and suffering are things we've caused. Hell was brought by us. Instead of submitting ourselves to an eternity of rebirths in this hell we've created for ourselves, we can choose to give up pride and learn to act with patience, humility, and compassion in order to create heaven on earth, experience peace in this life as well as the next, and create heaven on earth. This is our choice. Every day we succeed. We have the option to choose between patience, humility, and compassion, or death, destruction, and suffering, just as a sober person decides every day whether to drink or whether to start using alcohol again.